Hey everyone, and welcome to today's devotional. This past week, our youngest boy Levi started back to primary school, and they've all been adjusting back into school, which has been brilliant over the last week. But it's been brilliant actually for me because it has meant this past week has had no homework. But I had asked him one day what they had been getting up to, knowing that maybe the routines had been slightly different. And he had said that the teacher had not been giving them a lot of work, but that she had read them read the class a story, and that she was finishing off tomorrow, the next day. But it took me right back to my memories of school when we were read a story by the teacher, and I remember how I would just love to imagine the ending of the story and how it was going to turn out before the teacher finalised the rest of it. But I used to do that with all types of stories. I used to imagine maybe how the characters acted and what they looked like, and I used to picture it all in my head. But of course they all had a happy ending. I definitely didn't very often have a story without one of those. But I don't ever think I planned in tears or heartache or loss or fallouts. But we all know a good story includes some twists and turns, don't we, for the happy ending to be so amazing. But one of my favourite stories, and I remember as a wee girl actually picturing this one in my head too, but it's the story of the woman and the lost coin. I remember imagining, and probably still do if I hear it, trying to imagine every move she made and picture what it must have maybe felt like for her in that time of loss and panic. But I'd love to read you the story from the book of Luke. And it's one of the lost parables. It's right in the middle of the other two, but it's Luke 15 verses 8 to 10. It's only 2 verses. And it says, "Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and she loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbours together and says, 'Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin.' And in the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." I would love to share 3 quick thoughts with you, just to encourage you with the heart of God for each of us today. So the first point is that she sees. The start of the story tells us that the woman had 10 coins and then she lost. She sees that she has lost. She recognises that it's missing. That horrible feeling, I can just imagine what she would have felt like. And we all know what it can feel like when we lose something. To some degree, we have felt that loss. But when you realise something isn't there, and so she sees it's missing, her heart skips a beat, maybe panic sets in as she recognises what this actually means. Some have argued that the coins would definitely have maybe hung on a veil or around a woman's neck back then, maybe as part of her jewellery or a dowry to be her living if her husband ever died. And this would definitely have added to the importance of these coins to her, but definitely the monetary consideration is significant enough. It is thought that the value back then of one of these coins represented about a day's wages. But in any case, we can see that a missing coin, 1 out of 10, would definitely have been a terrible loss for her. So that's the first point, she sees. The second is she searches. And so this passage says that she lights a lamp and then she starts the search. Her house could have had no windows at all, or maybe a few, but very little light. And so I would imagine it to be that she would plan a very thorough and systematic search, knowing where she's starting and where she's going to. She gets out the brush and doesn't miss an inch of the floor, probably lifting everything and anything that's in her way. And I love how the different Bible translations describe her search. They range from she searches carefully, diligently, and the Message says she searches every nook and cranny. And it says that she searches until she finds it. It doesn't say she searches until bedtime or until she was fed up searching or she was tired searching. She searched until she found. And the third point is this, that she celebrates. And this is kind of my favourite part of the story to imagine. I love imagining the celebration that she would have had, that she would have gathered all her friends and all her neighbours, probably had happy tears and maybe even a wee happy dance in there, who knows. But everyone was happy that she no longer was at her wit's end, that her inner calm returned and that her panic was over and her peace was back. And I just love this thought, and I love to imagine that. But we all know that this parable is to teach us and show us something of the heart of God. And I love how Luke records this unique perspective of Jesus' ministry on this earth and how his love and value was for people. So just as the woman represents him in the story, let's be reminded again of those 3 points. So she sees, but I want to remind you that he sees. Please be reminded today that God sees where you are. If you're lost today, he knows. And if you feel lost, he sees. Maybe you've lost your purpose or passion, or you've lost your peace. Be encouraged today that he sees you. You are so valuable to him and his eyes are on you. He is El Roi, the God who sees. He's seen Hagar in her lost place, and I want to remind you today that he sees each of us. Maybe you've lost a person or a relationship. I'm not sure. Maybe you wonder if God even notices or cares. Does he even see you? But please be reminded today that God sees exactly where you are. The second point is that he searches. Jesus wanted the religious leaders to understand how he felt about those who were lost. When we are lost sinners, we are not just out there somewhere away from God. God longed for us so much that he took the ultimate action. He offered up his son as a sacrificial lamb. He did this to cleanse us, the sinner, from our sin, and to restore us to himself. He would go through any means, any expense to bring us to himself. He would search every nook and cranny. He would search diligently and carefully for each of us, and we need to be encouraged with that today. He would not be given up until each of us are found. And that's your value to him. I love that I mean that much to him, that he wouldn't just be happy with 9 out of the 10 coins, but that he wants all of them, that he wants all of us. And the third point is that he celebrates. I just want to remind you that you are celebrated when you are found. When you find salvation in him, verse 10 says, there is rejoicing over one sinner who repents. But the heart of God celebrates when we also find our way, when we've been lost, when we find our freedom, when we've lost that freedom in him, when we find our true peace and joy in a life lived with him and for him. Know that he celebrates with each of us daily as we grow closer to him and as we maybe find out new truths and knowledge of his devotion to caring for mankind enough to go searching for the lost. And let's be reminded today that if we love the Lord and have been found, that he desires for each of us to value those that he values. Isn't that right? He lost people, he reminds us that lost people have a great value, an exceeding value to God. Let us in his kingdom share his value of lost people. I always want to be remembering that they are worth the effort, the sacrifice, and most important, the celebration when they're found. I always hope to be part of the celebrations, and hope that we as a church always will be celebrating when the lost are found. I pray you have a great week this week.